Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Northern League Championship, brought to you by MasterCard Telia and El Giganten. My name is Hitbrain, and I'm joined by Gulborg and Orcs as we're getting ready to go into our third day of this week 4. As my hair, what is going on up there? I'll fix that in a minute. Gulborg, how you doing?
You're normally supposed to fix that before you come on show.
I didn't see. I couldn't see. I don't know. Maybe we could just get some mad hair going on this desk as we start this off. What we got coming up today? Yeah, Player of the Day vote. That's one. So, if you guys head over to our social media channels, you can actually cast your vote on your Player of the Day, and you actually come in with a chance to win yourself some RP, some goodies, some skins. All of that. Make sure you head over to NLC LOL over on our social media channels and figure out more of how to do that. Because like I said yesterday, I have no idea how you do it, and I haven't even looked.
Yeah, a little bit too complicated for you, Jake, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's just fairly simple, which is still way too complicated for me. Yesterday was a pretty good day, wasn't it, guys?
I loved it yesterday. It was like some really good games. We were closer to... coming close on to the end of this last week. Like, we are heading into playoffs soon, and that means like the games we had yesterday also had influence on the standings, and so the games today. So there's a lot on the lines for these teams. There's a lot of stakes, and obviously we're going to dive into that.
Well, let's have a little look at the standings and see how all of that went down. So, over in Division A, Group A, number 1, number 2, whatever you want to call it, BTXL do stand at the top 6 and 1. Then it is Tricked 5 and 2. Nordavind and Granite are below them. Dusty and then Godsent.
And I have no idea why you would ever call the first group you talk about number 2, but yeah, Group A coming in, BTXL sitting at the top with a 6-1 and playing Trick today, so there's a chance that they might share the first place. Like, this group is still wide open in terms of playoff spots, so there's a lot to be looking forward to.
And over in Division B or Group 2 or number 1, whatever you want to call them, it's going to be Fnatic Rising sitting at the top 7 and 1. Barrage below them. Singularity a game up at the moment over Barrage, are still technically below Barrage, so depending on the outcome of their game later, might see a bit of a shake up there. Then it's Kova, Riddle, and at the bottom it's MNM. Orcs. Kind of not really much unexpected there about Fnatic at the top, but I think Singularity is a bit of a shake up so far, right?
I mean, I think we've kind of expected a lot from this roster. I think Barrage as well, a lot of people had high expectations coming in. They haven't delivered to the point of insanity. It's not like they've beaten Fnatic handily and come out above them. We did get that win from Barrage against them, but obviously that was with a substitute. And since then, Fnatic have looked pretty dominant, at least yesterday. There have been some shaky games. I think it's very clear with this group, though. There's like a top 3 and a bottom 3. And there's still sort of enough time for the teams to try and make a sort of miracle run, but realistically, it's very much seeding on the top half and the bottom half. There's so much that can happen, because in those last 3 spots, there's a playoff spot, just a nothing spot, which is kind of null, and a relegation spot. So those 3 teams could really end up bouncing between those, and the games today are going to have a massive influence.
Well, as we cast our mind back to yesterday and see how they kind of impact on the games today, Fnatic, pretty dominant game over Singularity. We did obviously start out with XL versus Granite to start us off, and this was, again, another pretty dominant game.
Yeah, Granite came into the season with huge upsets against teams, but it's like we've talked about, it seems like people have cracked the code and how to play against Granite, and they're struggling to find these wins today. Or yesterday, at least.
Yeah, and we had quite a few close ones, obviously not starting off with it, but I think the middle games were definitely a little bit more tentative. And Dusty against Godsent really felt like for a while it could go either way, but I think Dusty just came out with a bit of a stronger draft, and I think that really gave them the agency in that game, and it was a very needed win. And speaking of needed wins, Kova against Riddle, Goldberg.
Yeah, and Kova is one of those teams that really took some time to get into their own gear and start making an impact on the Rift. But these last few weeks, I feel like this is the team that, like, if they started out with the season now, they could have been one of the teams even contesting for the top. We saw what they did against Fnatic, so close to taking that victory. Maxi from Fnatic even saying they shouldn't have won that game.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of a game that Fnatic definitely should have won and definitely did win is this one against Singularity. It was honestly crushing, and it opened up a lot of question marks, because Singularity have had a good split. They've looked coordinated. They're 1-1 against Barrage, and they've beaten everyone else in their group. But in this game, they really looked underwhelming. And this isn't a Fnatic Rising who've been dominant throughout. The only time where Fnatic Rising have looked like what we expected has been against Singularity in those 2 games, and they've just demolished them. It wasn't even close. It was a 7,000 gold lead at 14 minutes, and at that point, I was ready to call the game. It was that far ahead, and Fnatic were in so heavy control. And I'm not sure whether it's a mental block from Singularity or it's just Fnatic stepping up their game against stronger opposition. But really, it doesn't matter where Singularity are placing in their group. They're probably going to be going to playoffs at this point, and they have a lot of work to be done if they want to be coming out on top.
And it's really interesting as well, because me and Jamada were actually talking before the show started, and I think Gulborg was actually in this conversation where we were talking predictions, and we've all said, we're like, I'm not sure about this Fnatic game. It could go either way. And when it kind of came down to it, Fnatic just went, no, it's always going to be a Fnatic game. Anyway, that's yesterday, but we still have 4 games coming up today. So let's have a look at what we've got starting off the day. It's going to be Barrage versus MNM to open us up. Then it's Dusty versus Granite, Nordvin versus Godsend. We're rounding the day out with another corker in BTXL versus Tricked.
Yeah, I think for this one, I want to see BTXL put on a similar performance to Fnatic Rising. If you want to convince us that the Academy teams are here to be dominant, if BTXL on the same level as Fnatic Rising, you need to crush the people close to you in your group, and Tricked is obviously the closest team. So an absolutely dominating performance is what I want to see if BTXL are going to sort of live up to the expectations we placed on them.
Yeah, and the same can be said for Trick. These are, like, I feel like on these two teams, like Fnatic and XL are obviously the two teams matching each other the most, but I think like Tricked and Singularity are teams that shown the same tendencies. Tricked coming in with a really good start to the split, only losing to BTXL. Now they have lost to Nordvin again, but with Singularity as well, like these are two teams that look good in the beginning, but now they're they're starting to kind of lose their ground, and it's now towards the end of the season that we need to see them step up, and the best thing or the best day to do it for Tricked today is against BTXL.
Yeah, it really is. I think it's a very important game for them. It could really upset the apple cart here, or it could just kind of continue the expected almost. Now, there's one thing that's more important on this show than any of the League of Legends, and that is our internal conflict over who's actually better at predicting the outcomes. And that is our predictions. So let's have a little look at this one and see how, well, I mean, I've been doing poorly, so I'm so uninvested on this time. But let's bring up our predictions and see where everybody has been casting their votes. Yes, Gulborg, I know you got them all yesterday. Well done.
Let's go.
Is that all you're going to add to that? All right. Let's talk a little bit about that Dusty vote from you then. Dusty versus Granite. Most of us seem to be leaning towards Granite when you and Excountrel both going Dusty in this game.
So to me, I'm looking at two teams where one team is on the upswing and another team is on the downfall kind of. Granite started out the season well, but as I said, most teams have started to crack the code against them. And Dusty now finally looking like they're a team that's found their footing and identity. So I just think that today, recently, Dusty have been looking better than Granite have.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think I agree in terms of current form. I think over the course of the entire split, I think that's why people are going towards Granite, but they have seemed to sort of struggle towards the end. And that's the big thing, is it doesn't matter sort of what you did week 1, week 2. What really matters is the form you're finding towards the end, because there's still so many critical games left. There's so much that could happen between these teams, especially with, there only being such a small gap between relegations and playoffs. Everything's really to play for here.
There's one lone pick at the end there. Got that Raccoon locked in there for Tricked. I'd love to hear what Trouble has to think about that. But speaking of Tricked, Orcs actually did have a little chat to us. So even though we've put him on the desk, we might as well just feed the ego a little bit more. Let's have a little look at what Orcs has to say about Tricked. Get that big slam. Crispo jumps into the back line, and the jungler is already down. Oh!
So I think when Tricked performed last season, they exceeded expectations. And I think they kind of reset again, and people didn't view Tricked to be one of the biggest competitors, but they've really been performing.
Looking for a Chew, able to take him down, but it's already a triple kill.
Looking at the roster, people felt like they definitely had bits that shined. I think Paulson in the mid lane particularly has been a standout player for this roster, and especially given how successful Aaron was on the roster last split, it's really great to see someone fill his shoes in such a dominating way. And I think as a whole, the team is really doing a lot of great play to facilitate their spot in the league.
Well, that is going to be our last game of the day anyway, Tricked versus XL. So I think for now, let's turn our attention towards our first game of the day, which is going to be MNM versus Barrage. Now, MNM, they are once again looking at potential relegations here. It is, I think it's like one game away from being sealed. I'm not actually 100% sure on that one, but it is not looking great for them. Barrage, though, honestly, a really, really solid split so far. They got one win over Fnatic, and you can argue, sure, that was because they were playing into a sub on the side of Fnatic, but even so, it was still a really, really good game from them, and Lingard played well in that game as well, so I don't think we can really be like, oh, Fnatic, it was only because of that. I think Barrage have done incredibly well this split.
Yeah, but I think we can just take it back to like this week as well when Barrage beat Singularity. Singularity was the team we thought was the second in the group, obviously. Barrage still with a really good roster, but at times had looked uncertain with some of the plays that they did. But towards the end of the split now, they are a team that's been looking really scary out on the Rift. I feel like Kevo, together with Seth in the bot lane, have been some of the driving points for this team as well, especially Seth when he's out on the map as well. We highlighted him a bit on, what was that Finnish team? ENS last split as well, like as one of these players who did really well. And I think that he's back onto this peak performance where we highlighted him last split as well.
Well, because I'd like to get your opinion as well a little bit on mainly MNM, because what do they need to fix? I mean, they are circling the drain right now as far as the relegations go. What is the key thing that they can maybe work on right now in these last few games they got left?
So initially, draft is instantly going to be thing, setting yourself up for success there. Easy to execute compositions are really what you should be going for here. It's too late in the game to be trying something complicated. And I think it's just looking to play a more early focused composition and look to snowball from there. Because I think it's a lot easier to play a game where you start strong and try and continue the momentum. I think if they're trying to play a game with a waiting, they won't really get their opportunity. And they've been a team who've been liable to make those mistakes. So I think early focus, look to snowball and see how far they get. If they lose this game, they still have a chance theoretically to make it, but it is dire. Even if they lose this game, they have to win the other two. And if you actually look at what their next three matches are, it's Barrage now, and then they're up against Singularity, and then they're up against Fnatic Rising. So they're running a gauntlet of the top three teams in their group, and they have to win 2 out of 3 of those at least to have a chance at playoffs. And that's if the other two, if Riddle and Kova don't win a game, then they win 2, they have a chance at making it away from relegations. That's how dire things are. So if they lose 2 games, they're just done. They're in relegations again after last split. It's not a good spot to be in.
It's on brand. It's fine. But I mean, if there's a team that you got to do it against, I mean, you're talking about early pressure orcs. And I think the tendencies of Barrage have shown that they're happy to draft this late game scaling. Like they love having the Kaiser. They love having these team fights to play around. So if you would do something like an early game composition, like it could be against a team like Barrage. It could be against a team where you had some agency in the early game. Priority mid is where I think mainly you'll have to look as well, just because it's a role that really opens up the map in a meta that is just so jungle skirmish heavy focus. So get Raxion some comfort, have Air in the mid lane and something, like give him that counter pick and make him work for it, because Air, at times has been underwhelming. And I think if you need to make the miracle run, it's not only just having that easy to execute teamfight composition, it's that the individuals are stepping up to actually fulfill the purpose of it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, I think, this one between Barrage and MNM. Mainly because MNM need to win this, and that's the stakes. You look over at the rest of Barrage and what they're playing. They're playing Riddle and Kova as their last 2 games of the split as well. So arguably they got a bit of an easier run of it than the likes of MNM. But we'll have to see. That will be our first game. But before that, we are going to give you loads of adverts to feast your eyes on, unless you use an ad blocker, in which case I've called the authorities. See you after this break.
You make me feel good. You make me feel good. Hearts run. You make me feel good. You make me feel good. Hearts run. You make me feel good. Lost in the moment. You make me feel good. Hearts running wild. You make me feel good. Love like I'm falling. Know that I'm all in. It's you every time. You make me feel good.
This is paradise. Ooh, feeling so alive. Ooh, it's got me feeling like nothing gonna stop us now, nothing gonna bring us down. This is paradise. Don't know how to find. It's got me feeling like nothing gonna stop us now, nothing gonna bring us down.
My goodness, would you look at the time? It's time for our first game of the day. It's going to be Barrage versus MNM. Tell us a little bit about the stakes for this Barrage continuing to try and climb up that ladder. Well, MNM, they are honestly hanging in by a thread. If that's the fairest way to put it.
I mean, we talked about it in the pregame a bit. Orcs got in about it. Like, even if like you win like these two games, like you still have bad head-to-head. Like, wait, let me rephrase that. Like, you need to just win. All right, just win your games. Like, let's make it as simple as you can. Just win the games you have left. You're playing Barrage, you're playing Singularity, and you're playing Fnatic. It's the worst, or it's the best three teams in the league. The worst three teams you could play against if you want to win. But in the end, as MNM, you got a tough task in front of you. You'll have to execute on it either way.
Yep, you need 2 out of 3 minimum. So out of the next 3 games, you have to win 2 of them. Doesn't matter what else happens in the entire league. If you don't win 2 of them, and again, stacked rosters, you are going to relegation. So MNM really, I mean, the way I see it is I would probably take the Barrage and Singularity as the highest odds. I don't think you're beating Fnatic. So if they do end up losing this, they then have to beat Fnatic, which is just a mammoth task, honestly, at this point. So it really comes down to this one. And just going to get started off. Pantheon and Thresh taken away in Barrage, dealing with that Olaf. So quite a bit of sort of tools available to Barrage potentially in the early game. I think Thresh, definitely something Seth is a really strong utilizer of, and those are going to be taken away.
Yeah, and MNM actually be choosing the blue side here. So a lot of these early game junglers that we talked about, they might need on the side of Raxi are being taken away. Olaf, Odi are now following up. There's still the likes of Lilia, but I think you need something more facilitating for junglers. So like if you could get to Talia, there's something to just get lanes from either pressure or CC you can draft, because it's a game plan you can execute on in the early game, and that's something you need.
Well, final ban from the side of MNM going to be the Seraphine over to Barrage now, looking to round out. Thinking of the power picks that are left open, there are things like the Kai'Sa. We've seen a lot of teams want to first pick that. You're talking about the Lilia as well. But it's going to be the Gangplank getting denied there. It does mean kind of leaves Gnar open a little bit as well, as people have been using GP as a soft counter there. So see what MNM are going to want to first pick for me, Habaris.
It's definitely interesting with the GP ban coming out. Like, you don't want to first pick it now either. Like, that's definitely like something you're looking onto. You can execute on just getting the Kai'Sa now, but if you do that, you luckily don't have to worry about the Thresh, like usually being picked up with Aphelios into this. But this also means that MNM, you got it with late game win condition kind of secured here, but now you kind of need the rest of your building blocks to round out the composition.
little bit concerned here because I can see a scenario where Barrage could just take a Phelios, they could take a different AD carry, something that punishes a Kai'Sa in lane, and then you have counter pick support if you want it. You can easily grab that for yourselves. So potentially this could see this Kai'Sa having a rough laning phase, and I think that's something Barrage should capitalize on. But they are instantly going to hammer down with the Renekton Nidalee combo, so super threatening towards MNM's top side. And the big question is going to be what can Baptiste take to even just try and survive that pressure, because so much setup already.
So yeah, there's the Gnar you can opt into. We've seen it so many times. Big into Renekton gives you a bit more range to play around with, but if you're not comfortable with the matchup, there is a chance you might just get solo killed by Renekton. And I'm kind of looking onto what jungler do you want to secure before second ban phase. Okay, so Gragas is going to come through either as a flex pick towards that support, but most likely up in the top side where he's been flourishing the most as this kind of weak side. And then as a jungler with what's left open, you got some decent AP on your team right now, so you can go for the AD. You can go Graves into the leave, that's something you want to, but I'm still... Okay, so you're just opening up the flex here. So you go with the Alistar, the support, and you go with Gragas and topside.
I'm really not actually a fan of the Alistar here because I feel like it weakens your strength of having the Gragas as a flex pick. And on top of that, you've committed to your bot lane already. Alistar isn't really super relevant level 1. You can definitely pick something that can look to punish that and set the Kai'Sa behind. And on top of that, Barrage, you can happily just pick up the Xayah. So if the Kai'Sa is diving in, Xayah has a tool to sort of deal with that. Not too sure about MNM's chances so far because I think Barrage have kind of secured a lot of early strength for them already in this one. And I think if it's honestly the decision making in the mid to late game has really been rough for MNM. So I'm not super confident as of yet.
So earlier I asked you a little bit about the ease of execution. Does this MNM team at least have that? Well, I asked you what they needed to kind of start drafting and you said ease of execution. Do you think this at least starts to lean a little bit towards that, or do you still think this isn't like, you know, we just want Malphite Orianna? Like, what do you think is going on there?
Well, there definitely is still ease from the champions you got here. Like, you know, it's a team fight composition you're going for, you know, you want to play into that. But now you need the kind of tool to get you to a point where you're on curve when these team fights happen. Like, you don't want to just get out pressured and just out jungled by Nidalee with this Devo. So I'm looking at mainly junglers here from the side of MNM to round us the composition and save it. Because yes, control mages will always be relevant. It will give you pressure in the mid lane, but you will not have counter pick for that mid lane either way. Barrage is going to lock in their support and they will have that counter pick from it.
I think that's another issue with picking the Alistar so early is there was a scenario where Barrage could have given themselves counter pick support by picking the Alistar. You're going to get counter pick support and mid essentially, and all that's really achieved for MNM would have been counter picked up. You've already revealed that pretty much with the Gragas, so we'll have to see. Hecarim going to get taken away, so just sitting in the jungle pool a little bit. There's still obviously that Graves we talked about earlier. For MNM in terms of support, you could potentially look at something like Rel as being a takeaway. It's a pretty solid matchup into the Alistar, as a lot of champions who can interrupt Rel's dive are quite solid, but you actually end up getting caught in the stun quite commonly as the Alistar. They're actually going to go for the Galio, which makes sense. It's actually a flex, so it would actually be a really nice pickup here for Barrage. It would have kept MNM guessing where it's going to go. But I think if Seth's comfortable on it, you could just be taking the Rel in this situation.
You could be taking the Rel. There's also the likes of Rakan. If you want to pair it up with the Xayah, you can go for some lane pressure as well into the Alistar Rakan here. So, I mean, Alistar Kai'Sa and what do they want? Well, that's the one.
Similar thought process to us. He was trying to decide between them. I think one thing in particular with the Rakan Xayah is that the level 1 is so powerful, and with Alistar it just really isn't. So we could see Barrage from those early points in the game just trying to instantly apply that pressure. It looks like MNM toying with the idea of just going for that Graves, which you kind of expected. Last one really would be the mid laner, and I think Orianna is still pretty solid, pretty decent, kind of what we'd expect here.
I see it could come in here as well. Like, definitely a champion that, like, with the Electrocutor Comet, that can also contest and be a backline sort of damage in the early game. But Ori, obviously the easiest to execute champion of them you can get right now, so wouldn't hurt to see that. Veigar, I don't know if this is actually coming in, but if it does come in, like, it could be alright, but no, it is going to be the C here, and so it is still the control mage. It does allow you now with going Electrocute or going that Comet that you can get some lane pressure for poking people down from a long range, and that's kind of the pressure we're looking at, but it's a champion that's harder to execute on, for example, than the Orianna, but you do have some disengage. You have a Renekton that want to go into you, you have the Rakan, and a well-timed Shurima Shuffle or just like a disengage with that ultimate could come in clutch as well.
Ooh. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Yone here. I think it's one of the champions that can actually pressure Azir in the laning phase. Obviously, being able to dive on top of him can cause issues when, I mean, your only real recourse is the Emperor's Divide and you can just snap back. I think Barrage have a super aggressive early focus composition, whereas MNM definitely have a lot of scaling elements that they can lean on the later stages. But that's the thing. We've seen MNM fumble the early game before. And if they do here, I feel like Barrage are in a great position just to run away with this one. A lot of early strength and a lot of snowballing capability.
Definitely, yeah, definitely not kind of what we wanted to see from MNM. I do like there is some fairly easy kind of team fighting. You got the engage from the Gragas and the Alistair, but ultimately, like you said, the main issue they've had has been the early into mid game for MNM, and most of the games are over before they even get to late game. So if Barrage just continue to kind of control the map early, this feels like it's going to get really hairy for MNM.
Yeah, but we've seen a lot of team not be able to do that. Even Singularity yesterday struggled with early game win conditions. So if, as you said, if they're not able to execute on it, if they're not able to get these neutral objectives stacking, well, MNM still has a shot. Like late game, there's definitely something to be warranted in having it. And even Raxion Disgrace, if you can work around the pressure you get and you get a jungle lead, that may just give you an access to actually go to late game.
I think for me, I want to see MNM playing with respect. And the big thing is knowing when to cut your losses. If they are fighting every dragon, if they're fighting every herald, they're just trying to force consistently, they're probably going to lose this game. Look for the cross maps, look to slow play, and look for the windows. There's definitely an avenue where you take this game, but not if you fall over the first hurdle.
Well, we've rambled on enough about this game. I think it's time we pass it over to our devilishly talented casters, Trouble and Xscoundrel. See you in a sec.
Devilishly handsome or talented. I hope he said handsome. I can't remember. I'm just going to take handsome. I'm taking handsome. I'm taking handsome, Trouble. Hello, Trouble. Yes, Xscoundrel and Trouble are casting today. I'm very, very excited to have Trouble joining me on the cast. I'm very excited. Of course, we have an excellent first game. The desk alluded to some of the win conditions that they were expecting for MNM and Barrage, but I'm interested in how you feel Barrage and MNM win here. Like, MNM are obviously coming in as the underdogs. What is it they need to do to take a very important victory for them in Group B?
It was actually really interesting what Orc said. He mentioned ease of execution, and I mean, I'm going to be honest here, the last game they played, it could not have been easier to execute. They had 5 champions, full wombo combo potential, and it just fell apart in the seams completely. So even though I agree, yes, ease of execution might be something that you're looking for, maybe comfort is easier for MNM at this point. Get your players on champions that feel the most comfortable in, and just don't care too much about the composition. And in all honesty, this is what this composition shows to me here, Xscoundrel. It doesn't have necessarily one identity they want to play towards, but as long as they can win lane, maybe Goldborg, they can win game.
I've obviously got that scaling element as well. You know, you have the Azir and the Kai'Sa. They're both really high scaling carries. So I think the problem that I have, and it's kind of something that also the desk kind of talked a little bit about, is that MNM have not been particularly good in the early game, and whereas Barrage have got a lot more early game strength, especially through their bot lane with Zyra Khan, especially with their jungler, who's, you know, going to sort of be a higher level farmer than the Graves, which is hard to do, but that's what Nidalee does. I'm a little worried about this early game. It's about whether Barrage can take advantage of it and about whether MNM can weather the storm. Because I do believe if we get to the late game Trouble, that MNM probably come out victorious just through the pure grace of scaling.
I mean, they highlighted it pretty well on the desk as they're exchanging hits back and forth. But now Momo's going to also have to deal with the wave, but Jackie and Renekton. The fact is that for MNM, they showed their lanes way too quickly. They showed that they want to play with an aggressive Kai'Sa. They did double up down with the Alistair support, and they're also like, oh, our Gragas, by the way, is going top lane, so no flex over there. So what did Barrage replied with? They replied with an extremely safe bot lane. They're like, we can't beat you, but you can't kill us. And they show that they're going to be focusing on the top side of the map. Hence, the Nidalee start down the top lane. Deep wants to be ending towards the top side. And if Mumus's wave is properly set, they could also be looking for a very early dive.
Yeah, obviously the Nidalee Renekton combo is tried and tested for months now. It's been an incredibly successful combo that worked throughout, you know, the latter half of last year, realistically. So obviously looking towards that top side of the map for some action, although Gragas can be a little hard to dive. I also kind of want to talk a little bit about what this means for the group obviously, you know, we have a big divide between the bottom 3 teams in Group B and the top 3 teams in Group B, Barrage being of the top 3 and MNM unfortunately being in last place. This feels like it's one of MNM's last chances to avoid relegation. Like, not only would they want to keep themselves obviously in the run for a playoff spot, which is not completely out of their hands, but it is definitely, you need this win to essentially keep yourself in the running. But I think more importantly for MNM, they don't want to get that relegation spot. They want to make sure that they are contesting for that relegation spot and making sure that they don't put themselves in an awkward spot when those Telia Masters.
Oh, they don't expect that.
Yeah, I think Air's fine. I think Deebo's just going to get a bit of damage down. Air should be perfectly okay here. But I mean, this is a lot. As I said, this means a lot for MNM in terms of the standings as well.
Thing is, MNM Excandral might not been doing great this season or last season, but they have one thing going for them, and it's called consistency at being bottom. This time, it's their only game, as they mentioned on the desk. They could potentially get away from that.
Ooh, Mummus all straight over the wall. Nice flash coming out from the Graves, but he's tagged by the Nidalee. No flash available. Surely gonna drop here as Raxi goes down to Mummus for first blood. And Bobista with absolutely 0 mana. There's nothing he can do, buddy. He's a very useless drunk man. As they, I don't think they're going to go for the dive, but they were definitely threatening it with that huge wave as well here, Trouble. That's got to hurt for MNM.
That's going to hurt a lot. Mumus is also going to be able to proxy the next wave because until Bobista is back in the base, and he also stopped him as well. This is massive here. He's going to be able to take the wave. He's going to be able to nice so much CS. And also, remember, we said from the start, Deebu's start was bot lane. He wanted to go all the way top to try and gank for that Renekton. And Raxi pretty much played with fire because he knew that Nidalee was going to be ending up there.
They actually get the double scuttle start over the over the Graves as well with Barrage, with Kavo and Sefe just taking the bottom scuttle and obviously Nidalee grabbing that top one. So a very successful start for Barrage.
Mumus played this so well with the alcohol.
I think this might be Kavo potentially going down. He has got the support of Sefe. Nice teleport coming in from Mumus. I think now Mihi is just going to go down. I think Mumus should pick up the kill. They're going a little bit greedy, maybe giving it over to Kavo, but Mumus will pick that one up for his second kill of the game.
Oh no, a 2-0 Renekton going over to the top lane that is already struggling. Fade's purchased as well. Over towards a Gragas with just a tear in the ring. This is definitely going to hurt. The only thing that's going well for Bobista at this point is at least he has his flash up and available. They need to keep track of the Nidalee. And let's see what happened in the bot lane again.
Yeah, take a look at this again, Trouble. Just break it down for me.
All right, so Kevo is way too overextended. Sefe is like all the way up in the river, and they had to pull their TP right there to try and save their ADC. Kevo manages to actually get away, so this is a huge win right here. Yes, you do burn the TP, but technically, all in all, you are much stronger in the bot side of the map if you want to go for the first dragon.
I kind of want to link this back to what the desk was talking about as well, Trouble, in the sense that Barrage needed this start. Like they want this start. They want to be able to put pressure on MNM. They want to be able to sort of contest those neutral objectives. Another engage coming through onto Kavo, but it's a little bit of a bait once more as now Deebu makes his way down. Mihi's going to be forced to flash. The knockup comes through though. The execute should be there if they want it. Just a couple more basic attacks should get the job done. And Deebu will pick up the kill. Now, Blue, very low, but he will manage to escape with the grace of the wave saving him. But this is, I mean, again, alluding to this is just an important start for MNM overall. I think Mumus should be okay here. No, he kind of got a little bit baited. No, he's out. It's
Renekton. You can't catch this. So here you go. Again, Barrage should have been punished, right? Because with the teleport users right there, they could actually make a play from the side of MNM. They could wait the Gragas TP and try to make a play over the Renekton, not being able to teleport right there. But what do? They get everything right here. They get the kill down the bot lane. They push the Alistar behind. Kai'Sa ends up losing so much. She's like 15 CS behind at this point. And they get the first dragon. They can start stacking. Mumus doesn't die. It's like MNM is trying to force these plays on the map, but nothing is really working out for them.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a rough start for MNM, especially with the scaling nature of their composition. Oh my word, Mumus is going in straight for the 1v1. Raxi still spending his time on the top side of the map, but honestly, this Renekton is scary in that ultimate. Still just trying to go for a 2v2. He has the minion wave backing him up. A lot of healing available as well with that max stacked Fury, and Mumus just pushes them away, brushes them off his shoulder. And that is Raxi just losing the entire bot side of the map because he spent so long trying to put pressure on Mumus.
Yeah, I was just about to say that is a lot of wasted time up there in the top lane. Your level 5, level 6 Renekton is just never gonna go down unless you actually have the ultimate to try and burst it down. And you're losing so much pressure in the jungle. Nidalee 10 CS ahead already. She is 1 level up. She's gonna have the advantage onto the smites. And you see that the gold is starting to slowly but surely accumulate. It is 2,000 gold in the lead for Barrage right now, and they can start abusing it. Once the gold drinkers start coming in, once the Gale Force is coming in for Kevo as well, they're gonna want to try and force these fights and put MNM further behind.
And obviously now the Rift Herald spawned here, Trouble. That looks like another objective that we're going to see, especially with the top lane dominance of Mus right now. That's something that I believe Barrage should easily be able to go for. I mean, Kava, have you not learnt your lesson yet, mate?
He has ultimate.
He's playing with fire, though. He is playing with fire. This MNM bot lane obviously looking to abuse that the isolation on Kava as much as physically possible, but Stefe will come down and join. You're right, though. Did have ultimate, not exactly 100% at risk, but still, he's definitely asking for disaster to happen.
Everything, Excandrel. They have taken everything off of Raxi, and now they might actually kill him too.
I think they're going to take his life as well. He goes across the wall, trying to get the final execute blow. That will be Debu taking the second kill of the game for himself. And as you said, those jungle camps are just not safe for Raxi right now.
It's a disaster. The whole camp in the top lane was an absolute disaster. You see that the Gragas is picked in the top lane for a certain reason versus the Renekton. It does have a lot of sustain. It does have a lot of survivability. You do not need whatsoever to gank for it. You have 3 very successful lanes where they can actually stand on their own. All you need to do as a Graves is actually start farming the jungle. Take the priority on whichever lane they have it in and try to push further in, try to steal some camps from Nidalee. It has all come crashing down onto Raxi right now, and he's just literally trying to find some camps to farm. See, this was the play that he should have been doing all game, right? He sees the parent down bot lane, instantly tries to invade. I think this is a little bit too little, too late, if you get what I mean, because Debu has already taken the Rifter from himself. He's gonna dump it in a lane and feed either the Yone or the Renekton. Most likely the Renekton, get him on that gold drink of power spike much sooner. I don't know. I'm trying to find the silver lining here. I'm trying. Maybe this dive is a silver lining.
Yeah, maybe this dive is a silver lining. It's a level 5 Alistair. The ultimate does come through from Kaven to buy some time here. Raxi might be going down. It will be 1 kill going over to Sefe, a second kill going over to Kavo, and again, a botched play from MNM. The early game comes crashing to the floor, and Barrage, this is exactly what they wanted.
This was actually a genius play because the Rakan is level 5. He can't actually react to this dive and they kill him super quickly. But Kevo is just so strong. Sefe takes a while to go down. And again, we said maybe this time was going to be the silver lining. Maybe they can get something off of that. As you'll see again, Sefe is playing way far up. He already has the Kai'Sa stacks, ends up going down instantly. But Raxi somehow there takes the aggro because Alistair had to move out because, as you mentioned, didn't have level 6, he wasn't tanky enough, didn't have the flash, so very unfortunate right there for MNM.
I think that dive was good if Alistair was level 6. I don't think they would have lost a single member if Alistair was level 6, but I think whenever you initiate a tower dive without Alistair being level 6, you have to be damn sure that you're going to kill them instantly, and that was a little risky. I feel like it reeked of desperation. I think MNM were desperate to make something happen. You know, as you said, you saw the way that Raxi was playing on the blue side jungle. He was just starved of camps. There was nothing for him to do. They had to make some kind of play, otherwise they were just going to slowly bleed out. And that was the problem that I think Raxi was facing. Just felt like that was the only play that he could make after clearing blue side from Nidalee. But nonetheless, Dragon is about to spawn. This will be the next area that we see a little bit of contention at. But I think the Barrage.
Oh no. No, Excandrel, there's no contention right there. The big crocodile just came out of the base with a full gold drinker, teleport available, flash available. If MNM walk into this river right now and the TP trigger gets pulled, I think they might all just die to the Renekton. So very wise from them. They take their backs, they take the resets, going back to the lane. All you can hope for is to get your Kai'Sa farmed enough, your Graves and your Azir farmed enough. You have 3 hyper-scaling carries, just get them there and try to get a miracle fight.
Yeah, I think that's really the only play you kind of definitely alluded to it. That's the late game scaling is kind of what is saving MNM right now. But they are 4,500 gold down at 12 minutes to the game. It's a pretty solid start for Barrage. But MNM, you know, weirder things have happened. Teams have struggled to close out. Barrage have been a team that has sometimes struggled to close out. As the game has progressed, the mid-game can often be a little shaky for them. They've even said it in interviews, their mid-game can be a little weird. So if MNM could take advantage of that, maybe we can look towards a strong MNM comeback in the late game. But that is, to me, I feel like where we have to go for MNM. It is, they can't really contest at this point now.
Oh, this is going to be so tough for MNM because they're going to lose even more vision now with Random taking that mid lane tower. And let's see, Mimus. Can you 1v2?
I think he's already used the Gore Drinker. There comes the healing from
It's up
the...
again.
oh, wait a second, he's going... How on earth is Mimus doing this? I thought he was just dead. Raxi, he clearly has not learnt his lesson, Raxi. Clearly has not learnt his lesson, and he gets dropped immediately.
I'm not going to get stuck on the 0-4-0 Graves. I'm just going to say that Momus is smurfing it up with that Renekton. We mentioned the second that item gets purchased, you don't go anywhere near.
I think that's just dead.
Very well
Unfortunately, the floodgates have opened.
Oh,
there is no support coming at noon at Helm's Deep. Barrage are absolutely running MNM over, and I don't see a way that MNM claw their way back here. Not easily, anyway. They are now looking.
I hope this is the top lane replay. Oh, of course it is. So Mumushir has already used his Gold Drinker into this fight, and as you can see, he flashes in for the W just so he can wait the reset of the Gold Drinker active coming back up. He's able to use it again, gain so much health together with a full Fury Q there, and he was able to 1v2. And this one was also so well played. So as you can see, Debu gets the spear onto air, and they try to force him onto that choke point, and Debu just waits patiently for the Azir ultimate to come down to then jump onto air and finish him off. It's just great play coming in from the side of Barrage.
Again, the bot lane really, any love has been had. I mean, but Kavo just gets a huge amount of damage down. This is really the only success story for MNM has been that their bot lane has found some pretty solid engagers from time to time. Most being aggressed on by Babista, but again, as you said, he's got so much sustain now built in. That ultimate is still off cooldown, so has that ultimate available as well. You ain't killing Mumus anytime soon on this Renekton. He is just way too tanky with way too much lifesteal.
Oh, and Yon is coming down bot as well, Scoundrel. This is going to be unfortunate.
Yeah, I think Blue Sky is unfortunately going down here to Kavo. Mihi will just back off at this point as well. There's going to be a top lane tower take. Babista just can't get anywhere near Mumus despite the health advantage for him in this particular engage right now. Mumus is just absolutely in the driving seat. He's not going to go for a tower dive. Yeah,
round 3
is coming around.
Round 3, Scoundrel.
Yeah, maybe round 3, round 4. It feels like that.
One more try? Maybe
no,
this time?
there's no way. There's no way.
There's like 3 levels difference between the Graves and the Renekton. There's no way he's going down. As you can see, the gold is insanely on the side of Barrage. It's like 2.3k for the top lane, 2.5k for the jungle. Same situation for mid lane. The only part that is not as extended gold lead wise is the bot lane. And we also said that Kavo and Sefe, they didn't necessarily pick these champions to win the lane. They just wanted to pick 2 champions to be absolutely safe in case MNM wanted to play towards the bot side because they had the setup with the Alistar, which never actually happened.
Yeah, and they're going to get the second Rift Herald of the game right on the mark at 16 minutes as well. That is going to be another tower that can very easily be cracked open by Barrage here. MNM, they're not getting into late game trouble. We talked about the potential win conditions for them. We talked about the fact that they needed to play it safe, scale up. They're not getting there. It's not happening this game.
I don't know how you can get into late game when you're already almost 10,000 gold down 16 minutes in.
Exactly.
I mean, when the support is almost the same level as the enemy jungler, ooh, that's rough.
It's a bit of a yikes, that's for certain. Debu now threatening the dive here onto Mihi, who's already burnt that flash. He goes in, the ultimate comes through as well. Yona gets the first kill, the second kill goes over to Debu. And honestly, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Just turn up, put your quarter in the machine and take a shot at MNM, and somehow they're coming away with prizes. Third dragon spawning. Debu should be able to secure that very nicely for his team. And now, Random, got to be a little careful here.
He'll be all right. He has his flat. He goes back in.
He goes back in because he's got the support of Sefe, who gets the kill onto air. Alistar is not going to be able to 2v1 this. and he will pick up a kill despite being put in a bit of a precarious scenario. Mummus is keen for the tower dive, immediately gets headbutted away, but he is just too tanky, too much damage, too much sustain. And Mummus picks up another belt, head for his belts, that's what I was looking for.
Okay, I think they're buffing their KDAs right now because MNM seems to not be able to bring this back, right? It's really tough to bring a game back. They all have their mythic items already. If you can see, the MNM players are literally sitting on a couple of components from theirs. When Random is allowed to do this, you know it's not going to get in easy. He literally just jumps back in because Sefe is around the corner. They're like, just go, 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 just buff the KDAs. It's just so difficult unless they manage to get a lot of shutdowns back to back to back. This is going to be a very hard game. Barrage is already sitting on Soul Point. Next one is going to be an Infernal, if I'm not wrong, which means it's going to be even harder to kill anyone on the side of Barrage. And Debo's playing there without his team, and he's allowed to do that.
Exactly, but they can't punish him for it. Even with the teleport coming out from Bavista, this is not enough. The cask comes through, but it's just like they're tickling him. This drunk man who's usually doing an insane amount of damage is purely tickling the feet of the Barrage roster, who are just completely taking the mickey with the way they're playing these team fights out. Debu now gets exhausted. Has to be a little careful here. The stacks come through from the Kai'Sa, but he'll be relatively safe looking for a spear. Kai'Sa will get caught out here because the heal comes through. It's going to be a little bit of a Mexican standoff between these two. And it's unfortunately Debu that wins. The execute damage just too strong.
See, Dan and Gulborg mentioned how MNM have a really tough schedule coming up ahead, and they have Fnatic in it and Singularity, if I'm not wrong. And they're like, if you're going to beat any of these teams, it's probably not going to be Fnatic. So you need to focus on this game. You need to win this game. You have to win absolutely this game, or you're going to be basically relegated. And it's really tough for them, right? And it's really tough for their mental, because we've been talking for so long about, you know, seeing certain tweets about them and saying that, you know what, it's just not going very well, guys, and that's, you know, the team is just not feeling very well. And then when you go into a game like this and you get absolutely stomped, and your fingers literally in the /FF minute 15, it's just so hard to keep playing. It just kind of feels really bad at this point.
It really does, but you're completely correct in what it means for MNM. This game is basically the relegation avoidance match. Yeah. You lose here, you have to have some out of character performances in order to kind of overcome the Titans of Group B and save yourself from getting locked up. But Random goes to the 1v1. I think Air's just dead. Yeah, it's very clean coming out from Yone. And Random will pick that one up.
So,
but it's business as usual now. I mean, they can barely put a foot wrong, can Barrage, at this point.
You know what, though, Alexandro? Let's talk about what it means for Barrage, right? Because we've been talking about the top teams, and we're like, if you're going to face the lower teams of the bracket, you might as well absolutely stomp them. And Barrage is putting on a show on this one. No one has died except from Sefe on that 4-man dive. They're dictating the pace of the game since minute 1. Their draft was immaculate, and their execution is so as well. So props to them. If they want to be able to reach the #1 spot, if they want to take revenge on Fnatic, this is how you buff your morale to do it.
Well, this is how you start, especially. Yep. Remember, I think they have to head-to-head with Singularity now as well, because they are technically in 2nd place in Group B. So if Barrage win here, as you said, they are essentially looking for that showdown against Fnatic later on, and that will put them in a situation where I believe they're 1-1. They are tied for 1st place. So this is a big win for Barrage if they can get it, because again, it continues that powerhouse play that we've seen from them throughout this split. Barrage have really been keeping up with both Singularity and Fnatic, and this game, this dominant game, is really a complete testament to how they've played. We've got a fight going on, but realistically, this is just over for MNM. I could tell you the micro points of what happened there, but realistically, the only thing that you need to know is MNM die, and that is now inhibitors dropping, and the Nexus towers are exposed. This should be the game for Barrage.
Yeah, they've got all 3 inhibitors. They've got a bunch of minions running in. This was a very surgically clean game for Barrage, and props to them, because if you want to be the best, you've got to stomp them all.
And Barrage definitely came in swinging. MNM are in an incredibly rough spot coming out of this game, but Barrage are now chasing Fnatic for that 1st place in the group. excellent win for them. It was dominant from start to finish. They barely put a foot wrong. And like you said, the only death they had was to a 4-man tower dive, in which they traded 2 for 1 overall and came out positive. It was an excellent, excellent performance from Barrage. And honestly, I think I'm excited to hear Hitbrain have a chat with them because they must be feeling really good about their play. I'm also excited to hear how the desk will break down how dominant that early game was. But Trouble, like, just some closing thoughts on that game. Do you think Barrage can beat Fnatic?
I do, especially because we've talked about this before. I think Fnatic's weakest in Bracket's lane is the bot lane, and I think Barrage's strongest lane is the bot lane. They're very solid. For me, probably best bot lane in the NLC. I do feel they have what it takes. I would like some confirmation also from a production if that was the quickest game we've had this split, because it was 22 minutes and 8 seconds.
I think it might have been touching the quickest game of the split. I know that XL had a 23-minute or so game, I believe, yesterday, but I think that might have been touching the quickest game of the split. Barrage just absolutely crushing it from start to finish. Yeah, I think that'll about round it up for me in Trouble on our first game. That was a very quick affair. Barrage really making quick work of MNM. I'm going to hand it back to a break. When we come back, Jake will be breaking it down with the analyst desk and interviewing someone from Barrage.
Waking up, the sun is rising. We can go anywhere, do anything. Put your hand in my hand, let's explore. Travel places no one's been before. Leave your fears and hear you calling. Wherever you go, wherever you are, your beauty's unique. So sweet, our differences make our union so great. Together we perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. Together we will be perfect harmony. Let's get lost in a forest of green. Lose ourselves in the blue of the sea. Paint the world any color we choose, or a rainbow with all of the hues. Make the world the way that we dream. Wherever you go, wherever you are, your beauty's unique. The melody so sweet, our differences make our union so great. Together we perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. Together we will be perfect harmony. Together we'll be. Together we'll be perfect harmony.
Ain't I mistaken? I've been here before. All my body is aching, shaking to the core. Wherever you go is a heaven, 724. Now don't go be misbehaving, but I'm craving a little more. Can't keep my thoughts inside, don't want no place to hide. Can't get you off my mind, all night and day. You always played it cool, oh but I ain't no fool.
too. So what do you say? Well, I'ma give it a try. Baby, don't let the summer go by. Baby, no, don't wanna say goodbye. Baby, baby, we should give it a try. Why don't we give it a try? Ain't no mistaken, I'm taken with you. Oh, my body is aching, awaken anew. Oh, I think I'm in heaven it's true. Now don't go misbehaving, but I'm caving over you. Oh, can't keep my thoughts inside, don't want no place to hide. Can't get you off my mind all night and day. Yeah, always playing it cool. Oh, but I ain't no fool. I know you feel it too. So what do you say? Well, I'ma give it a try. Baby, don't let the summer go by. Baby, no, don't wanna say goodbye. Baby, baby, we should give it a try. I wanna think about every time you look at my way. I wanna...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the NLC. Coming off a pretty dominant game from Barrage. I think that's the easiest way to say it. I'm not going to let you two open your mouth yet. I'm going to let you talk in a minute. But first, we're actually going to have an interview with Frumi from Barrage. So, Frumi, mate, how you doing? You right?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, but I'm doing great. I bet you guys are feeling well good now. You a lot of playoffs at this point, I believe. Orcs told me that, so if I'm wrong, it's Orcs' fault.
Yeah, we locked playoffs yesterday, but we're trying to go for that top 2 spot now. So every win from here on out is vital for getting the extra playoff bye. So
yeah, 2 more games left. I think you've got Cova and Riddle, I think, are your last 2 games. So
yeah, Cova and Riddle left. Cova at the minute are looking quite strong, so they're the game that we're looking at. Riddle, of course, can also pull off upsets because they've got a decent roster on paper. So still prepping hard to try and secure those last 2 wins to get us in top 2.
I think that's fair. I think paying respect, even if they are below you in the standings, is important. I mean, you guys got the real victory here as well, because I started actually voting for you this season, right? So,
yeah, that is true. Ever since you've been voting for us, we've started winning a lot more, so don't stop now.
I mean, yeah, well, maybe you have to send me your PayPal, and then we'll sort something out.
Right.
So let's talk about the fact that playoffs is actually going to be on a different patch, 1-4. There's been some shifts in the jungle on that as well. Have you guys looked at 1-4 a lot yet, or is it something you're kind of looking to kind of get past these last 2 games and then start to look at 1-4?
We were talking about it today. Obviously,
11-4, sorry. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, we were talking about it today. Obviously, there's a huge change in the jungle. We're a bit confused as to why Riot are actually planning on doing such a huge jungle nerf halfway through the competitive split. But obviously, our main attention is turning towards 11.3 now, as that's what the last 2 games of the regular season are on. So, we're taking it 1 game at a time in terms of the patch.
And obviously, you said you're aiming for the top 2 spot. There is that glaring orange team sitting at the top spot, Fnatic. You've beaten them once. How are you feeling about your odds against them again?
Well, obviously, when we beat them, it was a pretty convincing win, but they did have a sub. And I think since Pride's come back in, they've actually looked, momentally strong again, and probably the strongest team in the competition right now. It's hard to gauge XL as we haven't played them. But, we are looking towards trying to upset the odds to get to EU Masters. And I think, if we keep playing like we did against MNM, then we've got a chance. I think in a best of 3 format, we'll excel even more. So playing against Fnatic, they're going to be a strong team, and I do expect them to get one of the EU Masters spots. But I don't think we'll be pushed over by them, and I think we'll give them a good few games.
Good. I hope you give us all a good few games. Congratulations on that win, mate. Hopefully we get to speak to you again, all right? See you later.
Thanks very much. Have a good one.
Awesome. So, before we can break this game down a little bit more, I believe we actually have Gulborg getting ready to start doing his drawing and doing some art skills here. So,
I'll be judging.
break down your favourite player of the game.
it's over. Like, it's legitimately over. We are 16 minutes into the game. The score is 110. You're barely 10k ahead of them. Have a look at the items over here as we just play out the clip. Mythic, 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 mythic. And just like, no mythic. It's just like, I mean, we're normally here, I'd be talking about, you know what, this is going to be a Drake setup. As you can see, the Drake is going to spawn in a bit. It's up right here, but I mean, it's not really going to come to it because mid lane has instant prio. Mid lane turret already down. You have the Herald. You're moving the rest of the members down. And you know what? Even with ultimates, even the summoner spells, like, there's no way you're getting out of this. And the fact that you're getting doved in between two turrets, while, you know, normally we'd be talking about an objective, it's just a testimony to how well Barrage navigated this early game.
Yeah.
I mean,
Honestly-
like, what do you want from, like, this game, right? Like, I mean, what do you want for me to do, right? It was a stump. It was really well played by Barrage, and MNM right now just meeting that level of play that most teams have in the league right now. There's, I mean, it may sound harsh, but, you know, despite the potential this team has shown, they just haven't been able to meet it yet. And that's kind of the sad part about this MNM roster.
And I think the thing is now, MNM, their run, they have to beat both Fnatic and Singularity. I'm just going to say it now. Mathematically, it's possible. They ain't getting out of relegations. I'm in my mind, I'm locking them in. I just don't think there's a reality where they beat both of those teams. And that's what they're going to look towards now. They're going to look towards relegations where some strong teams are going to be coming up and challenging them. And if they want to retain their spot, they need to improve. They need to be finding their A game because the pressure is still on. This isn't like end of the split. Guys, we lost. It's unfortunate. Don't worry, we are franchising. That's not the case with the NLC. They are definitely out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Yeah, I mean, some of those Telia teams and the UKLC teams as well, just honestly looking really, really scary. So I think if you're M&M at this point, it's time to kind of buckle up because you're in for a bit of a wild ride. Now, speaking of which, I think we should just move on from this Barrage M&M game. Barrage played that flawlessly. They played incredibly well. M&M, unfortunately, not the game they needed today. Let's turn our attention towards our second game of the day. This is Dusty taking on Granite. I'm going to start with you, Gorborg. What are you looking for in this game? You voted Dusty. Everyone else voted Granite. So talk to me a little bit about Dusty right now.
Yeah, so to kind of set the stake, Dusty lost last time they played again Granite Gaming. So if they lose now, you're like almost out of playoffs just because that you will lose the head-to-head against Granite. So you need this win today. Like, it's monumental for you securing this playoff spot. And Dusty, as I said, it has been a team that's still shown weaknesses, but despite everything, they're on an upswing tendency. Like, this team from week is only getting better. And when I look at Granite, I feel like I look at their play and, you know, that they're getting a bit worse. Like, draft, definitely something they've had a hard time getting out of, and just playing that early game to the point where if they're not successful in team fights, they're not finding successful games.
And over on the other side, Granite Orcs, why did you put your faith in them here then? Because, I mean, I voted for them, you voted for them, but why are you putting your faith in Granite?
I think Granite have shown some really solid play. I think especially when they first came into the season, they showed they were capable of challenging some really strong teams. I like their early aggression. I like the fact that they were able to match up to these stronger sides, particularly in the mid lane. Sahira was doing a lot of work, but as the split has gone on, it's been a bit shaky. I think there have been some doubts, and I think now it's kind of where they have to like step up and show that level of play we saw initially from them. I do think the stronger teams in the league have kind of worked out how to deal with them. I'm not convinced that Dusty has, though. Dusty managed to win a game earlier this week, which is huge for them, but I still don't think they're at the flawless side that are just going to steamroll Granite. So I think it's going to be close, but I think Granite still are a little bit too much of a curveball for Dusty to handle.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, like, that first game, pretty one-sided. I think this game's going to definitely be a more scrappy kind of... I'm hoping we get lots of team fights, lots of chaos, lots of back and forth, you know, the occasional steal of the objectives. That's kind of where I'm hoping for in this game. Granite, are up in the score right now as far as the scoreboard goes, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be a close one. What are you laughing at, Gorborg? I see you giggling over there. What are you chuckling away at?
I just love you. You're great. You're great.
Thank you. I guess. I love
you. Guys need a moment? I can leave.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Off
You can if you want to, yeah.
No, you're supposed to say don't leave.
No.
We want you to leave. You know what? I think you will want Orcs to leave. we're going to leave ourselves here. We'll see you in a second for our second game of the day.